Viewers and subscribers, welcome to another episode of an unnamed podcast with a directionless leader up until it is determined which direction we are heading. People, in today's topic, we want to discuss the drug issue. Why, just why, do we keep blaming one group of people and yet we fail to look deeper into the situation? Like, who's importing it? Who's the biggest customers? Why is it being imported? And are there any hidden hands behind this drug trade other than the obvious players that we see on the streets? Let me know what you think about this topic in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. You know we family, right? Holla. People, for decades, drugs have become a major problem in South Africa. In particular, we have Nyaupe in the black townships, and we have Turk in the colored communities, which basically is the same thing, I would think. Maybe a slight change in ingredients here and there, but basically, I would think it's the same thing, right? Or has the same effect, or, you know, different words for same kind of thing. So here's my thing. We always just look at the Nigerians are doing the drugs. The Nigerians are the ones. The Nigerians are doing this. The Nigerians are selling to our kids. That's what we know. That's what we see. That's what we hear. And that's the narrative, right? And that's cool, yes. And Nigerians are not the only ones selling drugs. You all know that there's other groups selling drugs as well. But the Nigerians somehow seem to be the kingpins or the well known people to be selling drugs all over the world, right? But in this case, I want to focus particularly on South Africa. Now, here's the thing. We just look specifically at Nigerians, and that's the way it ends. It starts with them and it ends with them, right? But I did just a little digging, and I didn't want to dig too far because I didn't want to go down the rabbit hole, right? I just wanted to dig as far as I could just get just beyond the surface from what I see. And this is what I found out. I found out that the drugs that are being imported into South Africa, well, they might be brought in by the Nigerians, but it's not the Nigerians who are actually importing the drugs. There are other customers who actually want the stuff. And it's therefore the Nigerians who have the connections to bring it in. Now, do you see what I'm talking about? So, yes, we do blame the Nigerians for bringing it in, and yet the Nigerians are basically the facilitators of this product. So, if we look at the origin of powder, for example, right? Snow, white powder. The Nigerians don't manufacture it, right? And then if you look at the end user, the Nigerians don't use it. I'm not saying there aren't any Nigerians who don't use powder, but the majority of the Nigerians who sell the product, right, don't use the product. So my main focus is trying to say, okay, so who are the people that are actually demanding the products? Because, sales, business is about um, demand, right? Demand. If there's a demand for something, then you're going to create that thing or make that thing happen, right? Then it got me thinking, why don't we focus on the demand? Who wants the stuff? Because most of the time we just focus on the people that are doing it, that are selling it, but we are forgetting that these people are being told or being asked, can you get this stuff? Because I want this stuff or we want this stuff. So, people, white powder is not cheap. And that is evident everywhere you go if you are in that market. Supply and demand is a big thing. So we already know who the suppliers are. So that's why we're just focusing on demand. If you're going to most townships, you won't find powder, snow. You won't get it. Not to say you can't. Yeah, the very few that can, yeah, they'll get it. But the majority of the demand in the townships is for the leftovers, more like your crack, your heroin, nyaupe, your tuck, methamphetamine. I don't know if fentanyl is in South Africa yet, but yeah, you know, it's like the lower drugs, right? Snow powder is called a rich man drug or the rich man's drug. And you would know that just the price of an ounce of that is definitely not distant for the townships. That you got to handle 1%. That you got to know that for 100%. So the demand for snow white powder is not coming from the townships at all. It is coming from the affluent suburbs. If you look at the affluent suburbs, if you go to these higher class parties, and even you will notice that snow and powder, or snow or powder, is like the party favor of choice. And this is a certain party favor that you don't get in the lower ends of the market. So the question becomes, who exactly is ordering the stuff? Who is the demand for? It turns out that it's the rich that actually want the stuff. People, drugs have hit South Africa in a big way. We look at the townships and we see the cheap drugs that are ravaging the communities, right? And it's evident. You see it every day. Every single day you see it. But what we don't see is how snow and powder has permeated through the affluent suburbs for decades. Now, I don't know if it's because affluent suburb dwellers are responsible users, or whether they know how to control their emotions, or whether it's hidden from us the real truth that we really don't know what's going on in those households. Because what I did find out is that people of, wow, high caliber, people of profession, people of career, people with everything to lose, with something to lose, are by far the biggest users of snow or white powder. You see, the funny thing about this is that that part is never really spoken about. People, I am talking about doctors, lawyers, accountants, judges, ministers, people in powerful places and positions that actually engage in the stuff. Damn, bro, I was stunned to find out how from production in South America, a kilo can jump from $1,000 or even $500 a kilo in its local neighborhood wherever it's made in South America. As soon as it crosses the border, the prices start skyrocketing. By the time it hits Africa, Europe, you could be looking at almost $100,000 a kilo. I was like, what? And it's like, that's why it is called a rich man's drug. So here we are lambasting the townships for crack, heroin, mandrax, and nyaupe, and methamphetamine, whatever you want to call it. Right? We're lambasting these people for using cheap drugs because it's ravaging the communities, rightfully so. But nobody is lambasting the rich people for using snow or white powder just as much, if not even worse, than the townships. Because the townships don't often get their fix as regularly as they want. So that's why they got to go out and steal. And when all those avenues are closed, they go into this like withdrawal phase and anger phase and all this acting out and all that, right? Whereas the rich, they have the money. So they keep the dealers happy because they know they can afford to maintain and keep the habits. Now, here's another funny thing I found out is that these people with something to lose do not go out on their own to buy this product at all. They send people who have everything to lose to get it on their behalf. Yo, it is never reported or it is under reported the high usage of snow or white powder in the affluent suburbs. What is heavily reported is the heavy use of cheap drugs in the lower end of the communities, in the struggling poor sections of society that have a drug problem, can't afford the rich man's drug, so therefore they have to settle for the scraps, so to speak. Now, I think this is an unfair type of journalism or reporting where if we're going to report on drug problems, then we should actually focus on all sectors of society. Now, the main reason why it's not focused or reported in the rich communities is the simple fact that it's the rich, it's wealthy people, it's famous people, it's done behind closed doors. It's not actually done in the open. You don't really see affluent people shooting up in the streets like you see in the lower end of the market. I mean, in certain lower middle class suburbs, right? Damn near townships, or just one step above townships, you actually see heroin addicts shooting up on the streets. I mean, this is not shocking at all. If you come from those communities where you actually see people with needles and syringes lying around, and you just see wasted drug paraphernalia, what? Para, para something. Para, paraphernalia. Paraphernalia. Yeah, I think that's the word, paraphernalia. Just lying used. And you're just like, wow, these people actually do it in the streets. Live in the afternoon, in the morning, in the evening, in the night. You see them shooting up in the streets, injecting themselves. And you're like, wow, is this what society has come to now? Thank your lucky stars, you're not hooked on any sort of drugs because that could be you also shooting up, right? But here's the funny thing. So, the next time you want to blame a Nigerian for selling drugs to our kids, yes, you selling drugs, think of the demand. Focus on the demand because for as long as demand is there, the supply will keep coming. If we can kill the demand for these drugs, it will definitely ruin the supply chain. But for some reason, we always focus on the supply and ignore the demand. So, how can we focus on the demand, diminish the demand, and thereby diminishing supply? Well, it's not as easy as it looks, right? Number one, the rich people. They are the driving force behind the influx of drugs into the country. It's the rich. They do it. They are the ones that bring in the drugs. It's not the poor people. The poor people do not have the money to bankroll such big operations. Trust me, it's the rich. If we can stop the rich people from bringing it in, then three-quarters of the battle is won. The rest is just rehabilitation. Because once you stop the rich from bringing in the drugs, there'll be no supply. There's no point. There's no point for suppliers to go out of their way to actually try and supply a lower end of the market that can only afford $5 dozen. Nah, they're really not into that. You understand what I'm saying? So if we start at the very top, it will be a trickle down kind of process, right? Or trickle down economics, like they like to call it, right? If you start from the top, going down, top down approach, I promise you, within 5 years, we could eliminate South Africa's drug problem. But it all begins with the rich in the affluent suburbs, the people that have the money to bankroll such an operation. Because if I say to you now, it takes almost like I think it's close to 100,000, if not over 100,000 rand for a kilo now, right? Of cocaine, of snow white powder. Imagine that's a kilo, right? And then they find a ton, a ton. People, how much money is that? They find a ton of white powder in a container headed for South Africa. How much money is that? And who has that kind of money to bring that amount in? Do you understand what I'm saying? So it takes the rich to facilitate such deals. So we need to focus on the rich and how they are ruining South Africa's, or how they are bringing drugs, and how drugs, because of the rich, are now ruining the rest of people. That's the sad reality that we have now. And everybody just focuses on the Nigerians, the Nigerians. And I totally agree that they are part of the chain. But the demand is where everybody needs to look at. Kill the demand, you kill the supply, and that's it. That's just not as simple as that, but that's the way to go. That's the only way. You cannot keep arresting the supply, the supply, the supply, because the supply just keeps getting replaced. They just keep replacing the supply. You got to kill the demand. That is my thing. Now, is there political will to kill the demand? No, there isn't, because people are connected. They also get money. They also get kickbacks. They also get this. So there's no political will to kill this demand. That's the sad reality. So if there's no political will to do it, there's no community buy-in to do it, then let sleeping dogs lie. Let whatever continues, we'll just turn a blind eye to it. And so the cycle continues until one day a brave soul decides to come up with a plan to eliminate the demand. And inevitably, the supply will dry up too, because the demand is no longer there. So it takes one rich person or one person to go into the rich neighborhoods and go and start a crackdown on this huge party favor industry that has rocked South Africa for decades and doesn't see it coming to an end or stopping anytime soon. And that's the sad reality of it. Let me know what you think about this topic. Was I on the money, or did I totally miss it with this one? Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. You know we family, right? Hello.